Hello, I'm Tiffany Fox with Mrs. T. Fox Resources, and today we're talking about skin tones using Crayola Colored Pencil. You can find the link to the worksheet that we're going to be using in today's workshop in the description section of this video. If you would please like this video and subscribe to my channel, I would greatly appreciate it. There's more content on the way. Now let's get started. So let's talk about recognizing a skin tone. This is the biggest thing. And honestly, the easiest way I find to do it is to go into a magazine and have them cut out different people of color, all colors, all shades, and just have them recognize, what are we looking at here? When we talk about undertones, what do we see underneath that layer of skin? So when I look at this, and we'll do this as a group, I'll have them identify. Sometimes I have them cut little pieces out, and then they have to identify like every undertone that they see before we talk local color. But if I was going to go in here with them and I would say, now what do you see underneath this top layer of skin? And the kids will say, oh, wow, I see some pink, and I see some violet, and I see some red. And then over here, this is a little bit cooler. So some violets. And so we talk about that. We write it down. So let's put that little guy to the side there. This is my all-time favorite one right here. Look at this rich, gorgeous skin tone. So we talk about this as a nice, cool black skin tone. So we're over here with this. Actually, this dark blue that I'm holding would be perfect. Dark violets, dark green, Tuscan red is an overlay. So we just talk through it, because you're not going to treat all skin equally. And like I said before, some people just want to go right for the peach and the pink, and that's not the best way to approach it. So my document camera is making this look a lot more rosy than it actually is. But from what I'm seeing, I see this as a very warm skin tone. So I would start, even in the darkest areas, I would start with a violet. But I also see some mahogany. Now I'm talking in Crayola colors here. So I see mahogany and I see pink. I see some yellow orange underneath. We're evaluating the undertones. And then for this one, we have this really nice fair olive. This is more of an olive complexion. So you might even have some greens and some blues underneath in your darks and some yellows before you get started. If they don't understand what they're looking at and how to evaluate it, the rest of it is not going to go well. The other thing that I do is I would not do this with beginners, very, very beginners, like an Art 1 class. I would do this with Art 2. I would do this with AP Studio. A couple of reasons. They're going to be drawing people. That's a very advanced skill. When I do my drawing 1 portraits with the kids, I keep it in graphite. And then when they come back for drawing 2, that's when we revisit, we do a review of colored pencil, and we go into the portraits. As far as confidence level goes, I like the kids to be confident, and I like them to be really assured of what they're doing. And if they're not, this is not going to go well. And what's the first thing when you tell people that, like you're a drawing teacher, they say, oh, I love to draw, but I can't draw people. Okay, so we're going to start with some fair skin here. And as a fair-skinned girl myself, I can tell you this is the hardest combination to get right, because once it goes south, it goes south. When I look at this, I see a very light hint of the palest blue. Now with Crayola, I'm going to use my light blue, and I'm going to use my pink, and I'm going to use my peach. Now I'm not going to use my peach first, and I'm going to use my white. So here's our combination for this first one. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm not going for the peach right away. I'm going to lay that undertone. Tell the kids, because we call it an undertone, it goes underneath the local color. Crayola is mostly wax, and it's a lot less pigment than Prisma. It's a very hard pencil. This right here is a 65-pound cardstock that I actually used to print another workshop on. This was extras that I had. And in the interest of conserving paper and saving trees, you're able to print on both sides of it. So I'm going to take this light blue, I'm going to use very tiny circles. So if you were in the Colored Pencil Basics Crayola class last week, this is a little review. How they put the pencil on the paper is really going to affect the result they get in the end. And I'm always saying to them, you have to decide where you're going before you put the pencil on the paper and layer the colors to get there. So you can't just go in great guns a-blazing with this blue, because you won't be able to get this light. So this is the light, a very, very light layer. Have them come back on the pencil like this, not choked up like this, not holding the pencil. I tell them this is writing and this is drawing. So that's if you're thinking, oh gosh, my kids press so hard, they'll never be able to do this. They will. They just got to get used to it. They got to develop some good studio habits. So there's my first layer of my light blue. I always put these little boxes for them just so they can practice. They need to get to know the pencils. I said this last week. This is like their new friend, their Crayolas, and they need to get to know them so that they know what to grab for. This is my pink. So these two, this light blue and this pink, are going to be my undertone. Now, I'm not pressing any harder. What I'm doing is making these little circles that I'm going to feather in to my light blue. Skin is very translucent. You can see down through it to the veins and the underlayers. So, and colored pencil is very translucent. So it's a great medium for portraits. Layer of my pink. So I'm really not seeing a pink or a blue. I'm seeing a really nice feathered combo of both. I'm going to come in here with my peach. I'm still not pressing hard. I'm working the two previous layers in. You want to have a nice even burnish of color. What I tell them is that you're distributing the pencil across the paper evenly. And when you talk to them in these kind of like artistic advanced terms, they feel really worthy and important to be hearing the information instead of me delivering it like, quit drawing like you're in second grade type thing. I say to them, we're artists and we're working this medium to our advantage. We're manipulating the medium. I talk in terms of medium. I talk in terms of technique and concept. And they really respond to that. What I'm doing, I tell them, feel the layers underneath with the tip of the pencil you're using and work them together. Kind of like pushing them together like in a sandbox. Especially if you're teaching middle school, it helps to use these terms. Give them kind of a sensory perception of how things should go. Hopefully the magic will happen when I put this here. I'm going to put this peach. You just can't see that very well, but that says peach. Okay, I'm going to take this white and I'm going to start up here in the corner. Well, on the edge of the circle, not really the corner. And I'm going to work it a little bit, just so I can see. I'm going to push down a little bit and activate those colors underneath and see if I'm in the right place. I think I may need another layer of this peach before I do this. Because what the white's going to do is it's going to bounce it up to the top and it's going to activate the color. So I'm going to do another layer of peach. Got my pink and blue underneath. And then I'm going to put this white on. It's pulling everything together, but instead of it being this flat swatch of color, it's got some dimension. And if they were doing this and we were in class, I would say, okay, this would be the main hue of the skin. So when we needed darker values or lighter values, there's another way to approach that. And that would be the next exercise that we would do, is they would actually do a practice feature with the colored pencil. And all of that's covered in my extensive workshop. That sucker's like 2 hours long. Because they've distributed the pencil evenly, they're not going to have any trouble activating a nice smooth area. This is not intimidating. This is the other reason that we practice like this is not intimidating. This is a circle. This isn't somebody's face. And once they figure this out, they get so confident. It's going to get better and better as you go down here because you're going to be doing it over and over. So by the time they get down here, they're so good at it that 9.5 times out of 10, they say, can I redo the first one? And then they draw a little circle and they redo it because they have the knowledge. All right, so there's our little fair skin tone. I'm going to go put a little tiny bit more peach in here. This is my problem, is I just keep on and on and on and on and on. My daughter says I have the too much gene. She's probably right. Now let's talk about olive skin. Again, it's challenging because it's lighter And in order to come up with exactly what you need, it can be a challenge. So we're going to start again with our light blue. And you're probably thinking, why the heck are you starting with light blue? Because it's a component of this skin tone. It's not a large component, but it is a component. This is a cooler skin tone. So I'm going to come in here, and I mean super light layer. And the kids will be like, is that even going to make a difference? Yes, it's going to make a difference. Wait till they do their first colored pencil portrait. And I've never seen kids walk taller than when they do a colored pencil portrait. It's such an accomplishment. And we always do the memory project in my AP Studio class. And that's also just such a wonderful organization and such a wonderful thing to be a part of. And they can really show their skills off with the colored pencil. Okay, so there's my light blue. So let me go over here and get my yellow orange. I'm using an AFMAT pencil sharpener. It's electric, and look at the point on that pencil. It has an auto stop. I love it, love it, love it. So pink, yellow, orange, light blue, tan, magenta, and peach. So you notice how I said, like, you're going to need everything? Yeah, you're going to need everything. Let's go for our pink. So you can see it's kind of the same. It's the same idea. We're going to get those undertones on first. I was really pleasantly surprised at what I could do with Crayola. And I never would have discovered this medium as far as adding it into my products in my shop had COVID not hit, because COVID sent everybody home with Crayola. And people were contacting me and saying, hey, we need lessons in Crayola. And I was like, all right, I got you. Now let's go with our yellow orange. I was so surprised at the beautiful hues I could get. You know, you always just think Crayola. I don't know, Crayola. I don't know why I wouldn't think they would have been able, I wouldn't have been able to do great things with it. But I guess it's just because it's inexpensive. You know, you get this mindset that it's not going to be a good product. Boy, was I wrong. Now I'm going to go in here with my tan. Now I put this tan on. We may not need those other colors because it looks pretty darn close. Maybe I was having a too much moment when I did it the last time, because that's the colors I have written down. But when I do this, people throw a little bit of white on and see what that does. If it starts to get too warm and they need to cool it down or desaturate it, I tell them to find their complement. So if you're working in an orange and it's just getting a little too hot in temperature wise in the color, just tell them to grab a light blue. If they need to warm it up, you know, they can grab a little more orange or a little bit of yellow, a little bit of red. I have them have a swatch on the outside that they can practice on before that. You know what? I'm not super crazy about this. Let's throw a peach on top of this. We said we were going to use our peach anyway. Let's throw it right on top of here and see what we get. Who cares if you make a mistake if all you're doing is a circle? The mistakes are how you learn. I'm always talking about, listen, if nothing ever goes wrong, you're not going to know how to fix anything. And with colored pencil, unfortunately, once you get to a certain place, you can't do anything about it. It's not easily erased at all, especially Crayola, because it's so waxy. But if we're practicing first and we have a practice swatch out on the side, the chances of you ruining your project are slim to none, because you're being very proactive about the practice end of it. You know, good studio habits go a long way. I think we're there, guys. I do believe we are there. Let's see what happens if we throw this white on top. Just for grins and giggles, let's throw this white on here. I think that's just going to take it up a little bit, smoothing it out really nice. Like it's bringing everything together. So when you get to those top layers, when you get to the finish layers, that's when you press hard and move everything together. But no pressing hard and moving together until those last, I would say, 2 layers. Because once the paper has enough pencil on it, it won't take any more. Once it's full, it's full. Once the tooth is full, it's full. All right, so there's our olive. Okay, so now we're getting down to my favorites. I cannot tell a lie. I absolutely love drawing people of color because their skin is gorgeous. All right, so these are the colors we're going to need. Depending on how you print these out, you know, what kind of printer, what kind of paper, they're going to shift in hue a little bit. They're going to, just depending on the inks in the printer. So you might, if you print them out in one area and then you print them out on another and you're like, why are these different? That's why. I also have exercises available where they can cut swatches out of magazines and glue them down and then, practice developing the hues that way. And that's a lot of fun because, everybody likes to cut and paste. So they really enjoy that. However, you get them to understand how to develop the skin tone, whatever you think is going to work best for your group, do it. All kids are different. Like all groups are different. All classes are different. They all have their own makeup. They all have their own climate, temperature, mood, and your kids. So just whatever you think is going to work best for them. I started with the light blue just because I started with that one. I don't know, because I'm talking and I'm not paying attention. Then I'm going to go to my magenta. If you're working in these darker skin tones, the way I teach colored pencil is that you lay these cool darks down underneath to get your darker hues and values. So this is just standard, the way I teach the kids to work. We're always opting for those cool colors first if we're going for a darker hue. As they're doing these, tell them to keep the pencils super sharp. The nice thing about Crayola is because they're so heavy in the wax content, they don't wear down quickly. So that's another little plus. Prismas are like butter. They start using those things, they disappear very quickly. And they're much more expensive to replace. That was a light blue that I used before. Now we're going to go with a regular blue. I'm even going to use the browns just because I like to have the kids learn how to chromatically build the neutrals. Don't use black in my class, so no black colored pencils. Build everything chromatically, even in my painting classes. I did a chromatic black demo in one of my 101 classes, and one of the educators was like, I spent $100,000 on my education and nobody ever taught me how to make a chromatic black. She was so excited. Let's hit this with the orange again. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get to this color. So how am I going to build? And of course, they're going to have basic color theory before this. This is not something you're going to want to start with because they're going to need to know how to saturate and desaturate. They're going to need to know how to create value. They're going to need to know, what happens when I put a blue on top of an orange on top of a green. It's just, this would be too much for them in the beginning. All right, now I'm going to go with my tan. To be at this level, they need confidence. The more confident they are, the more they're going to be willing to try and to be engaged. And if they know that what they know they're going to be successful, they're going to really be engaged. It's when they're confused or they're disappointed or they're just, discouraged. That's when the engagement goes down because they don't want to try because, they don't want to fail. All right, I'm going to go with my mahogany. I don't have it listed here, but I think it's going to do the work to get closer to my desired hue. Wait till they draw a colored pencil portrait and then they tell people they didn't use black or they didn't use the browns. They layered everything in color and then people go, wow. And then they just beam with pride. It's just the greatest thing to watch. I'm a huge fan of success for everybody, not just the quote unquote artistic kids. I want to see everybody have a win. But I think I'm going to finish with this tan. So I'm taking my tan, pushing everything together. All right, let's go to brown. And you do not want to opt just for a brown colored pencil. We want rich dimensional color, not flat color. This is flat color. This is dimensional color. That's truly going to look like skin. We're going to start with blue. This will become a habit with them too. Like if they have a dark hue that they're working with, they'll just immediately grab their cool colors because the goal, like I said just a minute ago, is rich, gorgeous, dimensional color. Anybody can color with a brown colored pencil. If you're going to do that, I'm going to give you some markers. This medium is meant to work together. It's a group effort. These guys, if you're teaching middle school, I tell them it's like a team. We're all on the team. Everybody's a color. We're all working together. Sometimes we need blue and sometimes we need violet and sometimes we need mahogany, but we're all on the team trying to get the drawing done. Okay, so there's our blue. However, you can communicate that the kids will respond positively and just whatever works, I say do it. When I teach high school, I talk about this is like your casual dating part of the experience. You want to make sure that this is the color that you want to use. If you start to put it down right here and it looks terrible immediately, don't color the whole thing. Stop and grab another color. Want to make sure that that color is worth your time. Okay, so there's our violet. Let's grab our mahogany. Beautiful, beautiful, rich brown skin. And when we do the long version workshop, we do noses in all different skin tones. So you can see value changes and you can see an actual feature coming to light. But like I said, that's a much longer process. All right, so now let's go to orange. And those were done with Prismas, that longer workshop. So here's my orange, and I would definitely do a full portraiture unit so they know how to draw confidently, get that contour line down confidently before they add the color. So a full pencil unit first. And I think I chose green because I think this got a little warm and I needed to cool it. So I just thought, well, it's like a reddish brown, so let's use a green. And that is exactly what's happening. I'm taking it down a notch in value and I'm cooling it a little bit. As they're working the process, have them evaluate, is it cool? Is it warm? Is this the temperature I need? If it's not the temperature I need, what pencil do I need to add to get to the temperature that I need? So it's really a problem solving thing all the way through. And that's why they do the practice on the side. They can just put a couple little, scratches down on top of each other and save the anguish of it happening on their project. All right, so now I'm going to go for this tan. I'm going to put a layer of this, but I think I'm going to need another layer of mahogany. I can just tell this is not going to be rich enough. It's not going to be warm enough when I'm done. In my class, we call it pushing and pulling color. You're going to push it one way, maybe to something cool, then you're going to pull it back to something warm. It's very pliable. We talk about color being pliable. All right, now I'm going to get this mahogany. I think this is going to do it. Just a really nice, rich, gorgeous result when you do it this way. When you really get those undertones beneath the locals and you stay away from leaning on the browns and the peaches, and you just build that color, that custom color. Colored pencils are very customized medium. No two color what recipes that the kids come up with are going to be the same. So it's very personalized, and they like that. They really like the accomplishment they feel in that. All right, so there's our brown. Really rich and gorgeous. I'm going to throw one more layer of tan on. So you don't just have to use it once. You can come back in. This can get even waxier. I like a little bit of a graininess to my colored pencil, but you could press really hard at the end and get that waxy, glossy glow. No wrong answers, as long as you've established the hue and the value. Make sure that the kids don't drop the pencils. Being the pencils is not good. That's a surefire way to give Miss Fox. They used to drop the pencils and you could hear it hit the ground and then everybody would just freeze. And I would say, you're trying to kill me, right? You're trying to kill me? That's what you're trying to do. If you don't like the electric pencil sharpener thing in your room, I have to be honest, I never had one in the room because, you just don't want to hear it grinding all day long. I use these little General's pencil sharpeners in the middle of the table right here. Don't forget, tell me in the chat what you would like to see further free content on my YouTube channel, further workshops. I think I'm always going to run them live just because I enjoy teaching live, even though I can't see you guys. I know you're out there. And it really helps me stay fresh with the skills. I know I sound like a broken record, but not pressing harder, just adding another nice little even burnish layer. You want the stuff underneath to be able to work with the stuff that you're adding. Now let's go with our red. I sometimes would even go to the dollar store and get that cheap rubber shelf liner and cut pieces and put them on the table for the kids to put the pencils. My tables were not even. They were a little bit slanted. And the pencils would roll off. Sometimes they just won't put them in the tins. And I would be like, here, just like lay them down on this shelf liner. And they'd be like, oh yeah, that works. Okay. So, whatever little hack you can use to keep them from rolling off. When they roll off and break on the inside, especially Prismas, Crayola probably is not so bad about that because it's higher wax. But Prismas, oh man, those things will break and then they'll sharpen them and little chunks will fall out. And it's like a little piece of your soul dies every time it happens. Okay, orange. Here's my orange. Well, really, you can see we got 4 warm colors, we got 3 cool colors, and they're all working together. Now, this is a great place for me to show you what happens when you have everything on here, but you need it to be darker value. So they're drawing along and they're like, oh, you know what? I need a darker value right here. In the bend of an elbow or around the nose. You go, okay, what are you going to do? Well, in order to make it darker, you've got to go back to your cool colors. So this is my blue. So this is sort of like I tell them this is a value and hue sandwich. We put some hues on, put some values on, then we put some hues on. Now we're going to put some more values on. So this is my blue. I'm going in here, making this darker. That's what the blue will do. You do not want to add black. It will kill it. It will kill your color dead. Black is very achromatic. You don't need it. See how it's getting nice and dark? And it's like this dark brown because I have all of those warms underneath. So I'm approaching the correct value. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple local colors back on top, local color being the color of the skin. And when I put those back on top, you press down on this final color and everything that's underneath just comes bouncing to the top. And see, as long as they're using these little strokes, as long as they're not hatching really wide and long and they're spreading that wax out over the paper, that's how I talk to them. I talk to them in the way that the medium is interacting with the paper. And it really helps them understand like why they don't want to do something. It's not just don't press hard. When you press hard in the beginning, you shortchange yourself. You cannot add any more. Yeah, this looks good. All right, now I'm going to go back with one last layer of this mahogany. See, I haven't even used the brown. It's still in the cup. Actually, no, I apologize. The tan is the only brown in the 24 set of Crayolas. This is the other reason they need to write everything down. They need to know what they have in their box. I mean, if you don't even know what tools you have, how do you know what to reach for? This is another thing I tell them. If you don't know where the bathroom is, how are you going to go to the bathroom? You have to have knowledge of what's in the box of pencils. And then when I use the bathroom analogy, they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I pulled out all the stops when I was in the classroom. Whatever I thought would reach them is what I used. Of course, I told them how amazing they were going to be. And then when they were amazing, they were like, oh my God, Fox, you were so right. So there it is. Oh gosh, that really came out spot on. We have 5 minutes left. Let's like mess around with this guy a little bit. Let's come back. Watch me screw it up here. Okay, no, let's put a layer of mahogany on this guy too. For grins and giggles. I think we could make this guy a little bit richer. A little bit richer, a little bit richer. And see, I hadn't pressed all the way, so I have a couple more layers at my disposal here. Yeah, that's good. I like that. That's better. Let's see what happens if we throw a little bit of tan in the mix here. We'll tell them, talk to yourself while you're drawing. Say, I'm going to add this tan. Now in your head, talk in your head, but have a dialogue with yourself, write it down and have a dialogue. And then here's what you will start to hear as the lesson progresses. And when they're evaluating each other's work and they say, you know, you could use a little bit of mahogany in this area. I think that would deepen this value. And then, you know, the learning has taken place because the way I approach everything is what do they need to know? And how am I going to teach it to them so that they know it when I am finished? I do the same thing with these workshops. What do I want you guys to know? What do I want? You guys are spending time out of your day with me. I want to make sure that I'm giving you exactly what you need to be successful and nothing less. Yeah, I like that. That looks good. I'm going to add one more layer of this tan. So before we close, don't forget to go in the chat and tell me what kind of content you'd like to see on the YouTube channel. If you're not on my email list, my newsletter will be going out tomorrow. And I always send a teacher freebie. You can subscribe at mrstfoxresources.com. I send a newsletter every Sunday, usually in the afternoon, always with a little freebie and news about what's going on. And don't forget to subscribe to my email list for my weekly newsletter. All you need to do is go to mrstfoxresources.com. You can find links to all the materials used in this workshop in the video description. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon.